Hi everyone, good evening. This is Garima here from the iDream Career team, welcoming all of you once again to one of our webinars planned for the day among the webinar series that we have been having. So first and foremost, welcoming all the eminent school teachers, principal, counselors, and students who have come here today and joined us for this webinar. And at the same time, our career counselor community who have been trained and certified through iDream Career. Also, parents and other students who have been here today for with us, especially the ones who have taken out their one hour time, who may have not been a part of this webinar series till date, but yes, finally they thought that perhaps good learning is something which can come your way at this time. So welcoming you here too. So to start with, to let everybody know, this is a webinar series being conducted by iDream Career, especially for the ones to make sure that you utilize the best of your time during your stay-at-home quarantine period with the Corona crisis. So to start with, to tell you, iDream Career is a career counseling organization who has been working towards providing career guidance from the previous 10 years. We work with a lot of organizations, government as well as private ones. With the government, to name a few, we have been working with the Delhi government. We have been working with UNICEF as a part of 9 states, wherein iDream Career is the technical support partner for these 9 state governments. At the same time, we have been working with a lot of schools, NGOs, as well as other educational institutions. So we work with a few private schools, to name a few: the Sri Ram, Sindhya School, Samitha Academy, Navy Children's School, Kunskapsskolen, etc. And at the same time, we also run our own CSR projects where we work with a lot of companies and foundations to provide career guidance to the underprivileged as well as the government school students. A few of them would be DS Group or the Hero FinCorp or Bharti Foundation, to name. We also run our own training program to certify individuals who are interested in becoming career counselors. So on that note, for everybody who's here today, so apart from today's webinar, we also plan to do a number of webinars post today. So for tomorrow, we have planned one at noon, which is 12 o'clock in the afternoon, for careers in economics. On the Monday, we have planned for careers in sports and swimming by Nisha Millet, who's an Arjuna Awardee winner. Just a few instructions for this webinar, please. So we are live right now, and if you would have any questions or any inputs in between, please make sure you use the chat box. So this will be an absolutely interactive webinar. We are planning, that you all who's been viewing this webinar will be actually interacting with Pawan via chat. So whenever he asks any question, maybe if you would want to, put down your answer, just jot it down on the chat box, and we'll take it up from there between you and Pawan. All right. So introducing Pawan here. So for everybody to know, Pawan is the regional director Asia for the ACT. He holds somewhere around 23 years of work experience in total. So he started his education from the army school and then went on to do his masters in marketing and international marketing. Post that, he has experience across various companies, from starting with a management trainee at Blue Dart. He's moved on the ladder, worked for Princeton Review, worked for Prometric, worked for PSN, even worked for Oxford University Press, and now he's the regional director Asia at the ACT for almost 3.5 years now. So Pawan, firstly, thank you for being here. This is, I think, the second time you have accepted our request and addressing a larger audience this time. So thank you so much, and please, glad to have you, and over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be always be a part of such webinars that are hosted by IDC. It's great to be connected to all the students and counselors and parents who probably are looking at the webinar. I guess sitting at home, like all of us, this is such a new experience for the whole family. We never thought that we would be seeing this day, at least I never planned to. But since we are forced to, it's good to make best use of our time. So if you would like to attend these webinars hosted by IDC, I think it's a great platform to learn many new things. At least I do that. Before I start, Garima, is my presentation on? Can I just go along with it?
Yes, you can, please. You
All
may
right,
have
great.
to share your screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So if students want to go abroad, what they want looking at is a few steps process by which they select the country, they select the course, the college, and they go abroad. So selection or knowing what choice is out there in the market is very important. Why you're choosing what is something that is so critical uh, for you as an individual and for the whole family who's supporting you to go and plan your undergraduate studies. So first and foremost is to understand what type of courses you want to do. Once you've identified that, then you may want to identify the colleges. There are thousands of colleges across the world. A lot of countries are willing and are opening their arms and their visa norms for you to come and study in those countries. So you have to make sure that you find the right college which fits you. Please do not go the other way around. Do not make yourself fit for a college. For example, US has 4,700 plus colleges, which means you can have one of your dream college out there waiting for you. So you have to understand if that fits you as a student, whether that college university fits your dream to pursue undergraduate program. Once you have made that selection, you have to understand about the finances. Studying outside India is probably a little costlier than what you spend while you study in India. Everyone knows that. But what you may not know is there are a lot of finance options which are available. There are a lot of scholarships given by the college university if you are a deserving and a needy student. Also, there are other scholarships given by not-for-profit organizations which are there for your benefit. So you would be able to take advantage of this only if you know that these scholarships exist. Having said that, once you have done that, you'll have to complete a whole application process to go to a college or a university. There are various steps. A lot of universities want a diverse individual, someone who's fitting in the class and also bringing his own individuality and diversity to the class, because out there, everyone contributes. It's a peer-to-peer learning. So they want that someone who's there sitting and occupying one of the seats is important to the whole class development. So they ask you for your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade transcripts, marks. They ask you to take a standardized test like an ACT or SAT, because that is how they compare you versus another candidate. Then they ask you to have your letter of recommendations. So please make friends with your teachers and counselors. They're very important. They're the one who will write the letter of recommendations for you. And last but not the least, your statement of purpose. One of those things is generally your standardized test, which I'm going to talk to you about. After that, once you have made all this, you've made your application, you also take a look at when are you getting those visa dates. So getting your visa on time is important. And then ready for departure to this whole new country with a whole new culture that is waiting for you. And I'm sure you're as excited to go there and spend the next 4 years of your life. So coming to the standardized test, we have two standardized tests for undergraduate admissions. One is
Sorry to interrupt you in between. Is your screen share on?
it is on actually.
Actually, we are not able to see it. Could you please try it once again from your end?
I will. Can you see it now?
Yes, please. You will just have to put it on the full screen mode. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So good. I did not change many slides when probably this was not visible to you. So we can probably start from exactly where we left. So that's the whole journey, and standardized tests, as I said, are an important component. Now, having said that, as Garima pointed out, I want this session to be interactive. It would have been good if I was physically present in front of you and all of you, I could see your faces and you could talk to me, but we will do what technology offers, which is the second best thing. You write in your chat box if there's anything. I'll take all the questions in the end, but there'll be a lot of questions because this is, after all, talking about an assessment. So an assessment presentation is not worth it if you don't have assessment questions. So I'll ask you a lot of assessment questions for you to answer using your chat box. Coming to ACT, it's a curriculum and standards based tool, which means that whatever you're studying in your grade 9, 10th, 11th is something that this test tests you. And also, it's a standards-based tool, which means there's one standard which is applicable to all the students taking this test, whether you're taking in China, in US, in Europe, or our own AMCHI India. You would be required to be following that standard, and the question paper is generally the same when you're taking it throughout the world. This is a basic test overview of the ACT. It measures a student's ability to perform in university level work in the 4 sections, which are English, maths, reading, and science. So university people or college people, once they give you admission, they want to make sure that you do not leave the course midway. That's another thing. If you leave it, you become a dropout, you probably become a Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg. But that's not of interest for university people. For them, they lose out on 2 years or 3 years or whatever number of years of fees that you would have given if you studied all the 4 years. So they want a student who has the ability to perform very well in all the 4 subjects or all the 4 sections and complete the 4-year undergraduate program. ACT is accepted by all colleges and universities in US offering 4-year undergrad program, but also other colleges around the world. We'll talk about that in a second. The maximum marks of ACT is out of 36. There is no negative marking, and we have a writing section, which is optional in this examination. Besides US, in which, as I said, every college which is accepting SAT would also accept an ACT, there are more than 225 international universities worldwide which also accept the ACT scores in more than 70 plus countries. And not only that, a lot of universities in India are now started accepting the ACT scores. Ashoka, OP Jindal, Flame, Kriya, Plaksha. And we're also talking to NMIMS, Shiv Nadar, Bennett, BML Munjal, and others. So very soon, a lot of universities would be offering ACT as one of the choices for admitting their undergraduate students. So you don't have to take multiple examinations, just take one examination and you can apply anywhere in the world. Now ACT has gone computerized. So what does that mean? What it means is that there's certain changes to the paper pencil testing format, which we earlier used to do. The most important impact on student is that you get more chances of testing. There are 6 testing windows instead of 5. Each testing window, which happens generally in the month of September, October, December, February, April, and June, you have 2 testing dates, Friday and a Saturday. And on each of these testing dates, you can take the test in the morning or in the afternoon. Now, how's that important? Well, morning, the test starts at 8 a.m. So if I'm not an early riser or an early bird person, my chronotype, there's big research on chronotypes, whether you are a morning chronotype or your afternoon chronotype. So I blossom, was late as the day progresses. So let's say about 10 o'clock or so, I am my full potential. So if a test starts at 8, I wake up at 5 o'clock, I'm not really my full self. So I would rather take a test which starts at 1:30, in this case, 1:30 p.m. So, so that's why you have 2 windows and one can choose to take the test when according to their chronotypes. So in essence, the whole test you can take about 24 times, or there are 24 testing slots in the whole year. But that's the only thing that has changed. The rest, the test is the same. All the section, all the questions which used to come in the paper pencil format are same in computer-based format as well. English, maths, reading, science has not changed, and so has not the writing section. The test is still about 3 hours long, and it takes about 3 hours, 35 minutes with the writing component. So what's the benefit for the examinees, which is so important to know? Well, the first and foremost is being computerized, you get the results in 2 days. In the paper pencil days, the result used to come in 2 to 3 weeks. Why wait for 3 weeks when the results can come in 2 days? Take the test on a Saturday and you get the results on a Monday or a Tuesday. If you have not done well on ACT and you get your scores which are not up to the standard or up to what you were expecting, you can quickly jump on one of those 24 testing slots and take a retest. This is particularly important when universities' early admissions or early decision deadlines are approaching. And in that case, your faster results, help your counselors to apply and complete your paperwork so that you can apply to those colleges. The last point is my favorite. Now, I was someone whose handwriting was particularly bad. So if I wrote something in my school days, I could not understand my own handwriting. So imagine when I used to write a test paper, the teachers had a hard time understanding or deciphering what language I've written that in. And so if some of you have the same quality like that as I do, I think writing section on a keyboard is a, our writing is not evaluated, and our all our comprehension which we put on a keyboard is the one which is seen and for which the results are given out of 12 for the writing section. But that's not all. There are a lot of changes coming to ACT from September 2020. Let's talk about that. The first one is that ACT test is now going to be super scored. What that means is that suppose you've taken ACT test twice. Now, in the first time, let's say your English scores were 25 out of 36, and your math score were, let's say, 36 out of 36. You're a great maths whiz. So you take the test again, and the second attempt, your English score jumped from 25 to 30, as an example, but your math scores dropped from 36 to 34. Now, super scoring would mean that we take the best scores of each attempt. So we take your 30 from English, but take your 36 from maths and make a super score. A big research was done where we tried to find out what is exact predictor of success in a college or GPA in a college. So first year GPA scores were evaluated of ACT test takers, and we found that the super score was most correctly collaborating what the predictor of GPA grades were. So from September 2020 onwards, your test would now be super scored. The second important announcement is that you can now go for a single section retesting, which means that let's say I do take an ACT, for some reason I did not do well in maths or science. So I can next time go and take only that section. Why should I take the whole test again? Wouldn't it be nice if I just went ahead and took just one section, let's say only maths or science or English or whatever that section is? That's coming. Unfortunately, that's coming a year later from September 2021. But you should know that this thing is also coming your way. So you should be happy about it. So that is overall, I would say, a general level of ACT that you should be aware of. And now I'm going to talk to you about certain test taking strategies for the ACT test. I think a lot of students who are seeing this webinar would be very excited to know what are the test taking strategies, some of the tips and tricks for them to excel and ace on ACT. So let's jump right ahead. The first one is pacing yourself. Now, this is a test in which you have to do a certain number of questions in a limited amount of time. What that means is that if someone had given me a test and said, hey, take this question paper, do it in 2 days, I would be doing this test, getting up in my pajamas, sitting on my desk, sipping a glass of juice, watching some television, doing some tests, and then calling my friends. But it's not. You have to do this test in a time pressure. It's a time test. So you have to understand how many questions there are, how many questions you need to complete or remaining in the given time frame. So pacing yourself according to the number of questions and the time available is very important. Second is reading the directions carefully. Now, when you go and see a movie, I'm a movie buff, so I go and see movies in theater. And when the movie finishes, there are credit rolls which come. There are all sort of director of photography and spot boy, etc. Who reads that? No one likes to read so much verbose things which are on the screen. The directions would be one of those things. But if you do not read it, you would not understand or you would not get it that the three sections, English, reading, and science, ask you to mark the best answer. Whereas the fourth section, which is maths, asks you to mark the correct answer. Now, if we were physically present, I would have asked you, what is the difference between the best answer and the correct answer? Since I don't have that, I'll probably give it the answer straight away. In English, reading, and science, there could be more than one correct answer, but you need to choose the best answer. And maths anyways will have only one correct answer or the best answers. So in English, if you did not read this direction, you would not know that you have to choose the best answer. And let's say A, or the first option, is seen to be correct answer. And since you are running against time, you'll click that and move forward. Unfortunately, that would be not the best answer and you would get 0 marks on that question. So read the directions carefully. Read each question carefully because sections like maths and science, you'll have to complete the question doing various steps, vis-a-vis answering quickly. So read each question carefully and answer to the knack of what the question wants. Answer easy questions first, as all questions carry equal marks, and answer every question. Why? Because there is no negative marking. So please do not leave any question unanswered. Even if you have to flip a coin, head, tails, do whatever, but answer each question. These are some of the test taking strategies that I thought I'll discuss with you. And let's jump into the first section of the test, which is the English section. In this section, you have to answer 75 questions in about 45 minutes. These 75 questions are essays or passages, and these are 5 in number, each with multiple choice questions on the right hand side or on the other side of the screen. What are we measuring you? What is ACD measuring the students? This is important to know because the way you'll prepare yourself for attempting this question and preparing for the test. About 40 questions will test you on conventions of standard English. So punctuation, is the full stop or the comma or the semicolon in the right place? Is the grammar and usage at the right place? Is the sentence structure correct? All this is important to know. Garima, just checking, is the screen still sharing?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. There are about 25, 26 questions which will test you on development of topics, your organizational skills, and testing you on unity and cohesion of a passage or a line. And about 15 odd questions testing you for your word choice, are you using the right word choice, for the style and tone of a passage. Now comes the most interesting part, and I will take Garima's help in this because I'm now going to show you an actual ACT question which has come earlier in one of a real ACD test. And I want my audience here to attempt this question. So without further ado, this is my first question. Please read the first paragraph, building a corkboard, and try and answer question, which is question number 16. Input your answer in the chat box and Garima will tell me who is the first one who's answered it. So as a young boy, John Pollack dreamed of building a full-size boat made entirely of bottle corks. At the age of 34, Pollack sailed his dream down the Douro River in Portugal. It all began, as Pollack is likely to point out, with a single cork. Underline portion needs to be replaced by options given on the right-hand side. Let's see who can give me the right answer. And this is the interactive part, guys. So please interact. We need to see how much of you are paying attention and who's sleeping in this presentation.
All right. So everybody who's viewing the screen there, please put your inputs on the chat box of YouTube, and we'll take it up from there.
Thanks, Karima. Question number 16. What is the right answer? F, G, H, or J? I'll give you 10 more seconds.
All right. So Pawan, we have answers pouring in.
Oh, great. What are they saying?
So we'll just wait for 2-3 more. Right.
Okay,
so
cool.
Seher says G. Sneha Verma, she says G. There's somebody in the name of Pearl. He says there's no change. Chirag says G.
All right, we'll finish it. G is the right answer. Great, guys. Good. So this is what an ACD question looks like in the ACD test. Let's try and see if you can get the 17th right as well. To amass the staggering number of corks needed to construct the board, 165,231 in all, Pollack convinced the staff of several restaurants in Washington, D.C. to donate discarded corks for his cause. 17. A, B, C, or D?
Pawan, could you repeat the question once again? I think because of the small size of the font, it is not really visible to many.
Oh, is that so? Oh, well, they have to read the question actually, so to make sense, and see the options also. If it is not visible, then let's try it somewhere else. Let me go to the next portion. Is this visible? Probably in the screen.
Um. Oh yeah, but then okay. So let's come back to the previous one because we do have a few options coming in.
Okay.
So again, Seher says C, Sneha says C, Chandra C. So everybody, in fact, I see 7 answers. All of them say a C.
Hey guys, you rock. You're getting that correct as well. So good job. Okay, so that's how you answer questions on ACT, which is correct. And let's say if you want to try one more on the screen before I move on, shall we? Okay, let's do that. So Pollock eventually received cork donations from a cork importing company based in Portugal. Question number 18. And this is what, guys, the punctuation and all I was talking about as an example is what you should be concerned about. This is what we are testing you. Question number 18. Okay, are we getting answers?
Not really waiting for them.
Okay.
We'll just wait for 10 more seconds.
Yes. The clock is ticking, guys.
Yeah, so 3 people mentioning H.
Well, maybe that was a little difficult. Actually, the answer is F. There is no change. So that's how the questions are, right? Many of you thought, hey, this looks okay, but hey, maybe the punctuation, I tried to confuse you and probably you fell for this confusion. There's actually no change in this. So these are type of questions which come. I will not really spend a lot of time, but if you want to give one more shot for this, I would be happy to do question number 16 and then move on. So let's see if you can find what the right answer is of climbing Mount Fuji. Who will climb Mount Fuji with me? Bundled up in wool sweaters and thick coats, and we watched the sun setting on Mount Fuji in Japan. 16. What would be the right answer here? F, G, H, or J? I'll give you 5 more seconds and then I move to the next screen if we don't have any answers on this question number 16.
So for everybody who's watching us, just waiting for your answers for question number 16 here. All right, so Pawan, we have people toggling between G and H.
Okay, so the correct answer is H. It is codes we watched. Fine, that was all about the English section. You've seen the kind of passages, so you don't spend more than 1 minute 30 seconds. And I'm talking about tips only now for the English section. So don't spend more than 1 minute 30 seconds on each passage, because what will remain is about 30 seconds to answer each question. Please be aware of the writing style of each passage. As you will understand, the second passage we saw when you were climbing Mount Fuji with me was a kind of travel log. And the first was in the style when the author was trying to get some information from various contexts. Look at the underlined portion of the passage, but please, because that's important, you will have to see the underlined portion of the passage to get the right answer. But if you do not look at the non-underlined portion, then you may get the context wrong. Please identify the differences in answer choices, because you have to mark the best answer and not the correct answer. Take the sentence or option that you've chosen, input it back into the passage, reread the sentence, and then make your final selection. That's kind of tips for taking the English section. The math section, which is the second section, has 60 questions to be done in 60 minutes. You have the use of a calculator for all the 60 questions. These are all multiple choice questions. And what you are tested on is this. Higher maths, 60%, essential skills, 43%, and modeling more than 25%. Now, I know it doesn't mean anything to you, right? So what we have done is we have gone ahead and simplified it for you, for your better understanding. So there'll be about 36 questions in which you'll be tested on number and quantity, algebra, functions, geometry, statistics, and probability. Take on an average about 7 questions on each of these 5 subsections. If you have 36 questions to this, then about 24 odd questions from rates and percentages, postal relationships, area, surface area, volume, average, and median. Now, the higher maths is your grade 10, 11 maths, but essential skill is from your grade 8. So if you are attempting ACD test, I'm 100% sure that you would have passed your grade 8, right? Now, this is 36 and 24 is 60 questions, but there will be more than 25% questions, which is more than 15 questions out of them, in which you'll be required to interpret, understand, and use the application of maths into real life problems. That's what the maths test is. Let's see in this group who's the maths whiz, because I'm going to share some maths questions with you. Let's try question number 3 out here. I'll read it out to you. On a particular road map, half inch represents 18 miles. About how many miles apart are 2 towns that are 2.5 inches apart on this map? Question number 3 on your screen is the question, which is an ACD test question from an ACD test, which had come a few years back. And I thought I'll share this with you to give you a flavor of what this test looks like. Please input your answers in the chat box of your screen. And let's see who gets me this question right. Yes, the use of calculator set is allowed if you want to use it.
Waiting for everybody to pour in their answers on the chat box, please. Question number 3. So we've got 2 responses, in fact, a number of them now. People are again toggling between E and D. So we have 5 saying E and 2 saying D.
Well, majority wins, right? So the answer is E. So if half inch is 18 miles, 2.5 inch is 5 times. You know, that's the confusion. 2 towns, 2.5 inch. So, you know, so it's 5 times 18 is 90. So E is the right answer. Okay, good. Let's try question number, well, let's try some other question. Let me try and tell you if you can answer question number 1 on this screen. Marcus' favorite casserole recipe requires 3 eggs and makes 6 servings. Marcus will modify the recipe by using 5 eggs and increasing all other ingredients in the recipe proportionately. What is the total number of servings the modified recipe will make?
Waiting for answers on question number 1. All right.
I'll give you
Yes. So 3 of them mention C as the answer.
That is right. C is the answer. That's what question is. I mean, that's how ACD questions are all about. Now, I don't want to really put you in a spot again, but questions can be like this. For example, in a maths section in which you can, probably have to answer looking at the question again. I will not spend too much of time. I'm looking at the time frame, and I kind of am aware that we just have 25 minutes more. But that's your maths test. So what you have to keep in mind is 60 questions, 60 minutes. So you have one question per minute. You have to spend not more than one question on every 1 minute per question. If you use a calculator, now I do not know how many of you used a calculator in a few of the problems that we solved, but if you have to use it, please use it wisely. Just don't use it because it's there for you or it's there on your desk. And by the way, you have to bring your own calculator to the exam. Use scratch papers, which will be provided to you at the test center to solve the problem. Make sure that you have done all steps correctly leading to the solution. Do not jump to an answer. And then please make sure that your answer is reasonable. So that is the tip for taking the math section. The third section is the reading section, in which you get 40 questions to be done in 35 minutes. These 40 questions come from 3 long prose passages and 2 short prose passages. So again, it's a passage and then you have questions. Now, the difference between the reading section and what you encountered in English and maths earlier was that the first 2 sections were till your grade 11th level. But the reading section, you'll have text, which will be from the first year college curriculum. That is the difference on the reading part. Now you'll be asked a question asking you to refer what is explicitly stated in the passages. The answers are there, just go and read it. Or you have to understand the whole passage, digest it, determine its implicit meaning. I'll show you what a reading section looks like. So this is a passage from an ACD test, which was adapted from the novel The Ground Beneath Her Feet by Salman Rushdie. Now, I'm not going to ask you to read the whole passage, but just to let you know that the passage was 75 lines long. I've just taken 20 lines and copied here for your benefit. But let's look at question number 6 as an example. As it is used in line 9, the word sweep most nearly means, so you have to determine what the word sweep means in line number 9. So we go back and start reading from line number 5. The peninsular Bombay into which I was born certainly seemed perennial to me. Malabar and Kumbhala Hills were our Capitol and Palatine. The Brabant Stadium was our Colosseum. And as for the glittering Art Deco sweep of Marine Drive, well, that was something not even Rome could boast. So the word sweep in that line most nearly means what? Please input your answers for question number 6 in the chat box. Is it F, is it G, is it H, or is it J? Go back and show you the passage once more. As for the glittering Art Deco sweep of Marine Drive, well, that was something not even Rome could boast. What is the right answer? So since there is no negative marking, you can certainly make intelligent guesses here. You're not getting the right answer.
So most of them say the answer is J.
The answer is definitely J. So see, what you saw was an example of the implicit or explicit thing. So you have word sweep, you go to line number 9, see explicitly what the meaning is and answer it here. But now let's see question number 1. The passage as a whole can primarily be characterized as the narrator's relationship, blah, 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 blah. So what it means is you cannot answer the question till you have synthesized the information in the whole passage. So you have to read the whole passage and then implicitly identify the information that is available. So both example of explicit and implicit, as I was discussing in my tips section. Now, these 40 questions you need to do in 35 minutes. So do not spend more than 2 to 3 minutes reading the passages, which will give you about 35 seconds per question. And if you look at the size of the questions, yes, I think 35 seconds are required for each question. Now, when you're reading the passages carefully, be conscious of the relationship between the ideas. About 26 questions will be asking you to determine central ideas and themes. As we saw example number one, question number one, it asked you what is the central idea of the whole passage. It will ask you to understand the relationship and draw logical conclusion. There will be 10 to 12 questions which will be asking you to determine word and phrase meaning, for example, and you analyze author's purpose and perspective. And about 4 to 7 questions in which you have to understand author's claims, differentiate between facts and opinions, and use evidence to make connections. Now, this is the reading section. The last section is the science section. And the science section, ACT wants you to use your interpretation skills, your analysis, your evaluation, your reasoning skills, and problem solving skills in these subject matters: biology, earth, space sciences, chemistry, and physics. Bottom line is, these are again passages. And the passages are different because you'll have a lot of data. So you'll have to interpret data, do data representation there, understand what is presented in tabular format, and answer 12 to 16 questions from that. There could also be a lot of research summaries, and I will share an example with you as we go along, in which you have designs of experiment and experimental results, but all the information is present there on the left side of your screen. And you answer questions which are there on the right side of the screen. And there'll be about 6 to 8 questions where you'll be asked to understand, analyze, and compare alternative viewpoint of the author. So let's jump in and see what the science section looks like. This is a typical question from an ACD test. I do not want you to read the passage right now. I do, however, want you to read question number 21 on the right side of the screen. And without reading the passage, try and answer this question. If a block was pulled towards the east, the frictional force exerted on the block by the surface was towards which direction? A, B, C, or D? North, south, east, or west? So if a block is pulled towards east, the friction force is towards which direction, guys? Anyone?
Waiting for answers.
Come on, this was not very hard. I'm tempted to give the answer myself.
So the question is not visible.
Oh, sorry. So okay, if the block is pulled towards east, the friction would be towards which direction?
D. That's what most of the people say. D.
Yes. It's west, right? It's just the friction is opposite, equal and opposite to the point of time where the body is moving. So that's the level of science which is required. But look at the next questions, guys. It's like, based on figure 2, what is the order of 3 blocks? So this is figure 2. And you have these 3 blocks which are going, the 3 represented by 3 lines in a certain thing. And, you have to identify the shortest time to reach 15 meters per second. And, so required the longest time to reach 15 meters per second. So you have to arrange them in that order. So this is how you have to get the information which is available here in this part. See the speed meter per second graph and answer the question. So that's what a science section would typically want you to do. Do not spend more than 2 minutes reading passages, because most of the information is out in the passages, and then 30 seconds per question. All the scientific material is provided. You do not have to have information on science than what I just asked you about the frictional force. And entire text and any accompanying graphs, tables, or figures are important for you to answer those questions. make notes in the scratch paper provided, and then answer questions. That's the science section for you, which brings us to this optional writing section. Now, the point is, should one take a writing section or not? Now, more than 80% people, and that's the data that we have, take the ACD test, also take the writing section. Why? Because barring a few universities like the Purdue, Caltech, Stanford, Ivy Leagues, etc., all others accept ACT with writing as equivalent to SAT and SAT2 subject test. So you don't have to take a subject test if you have ACT with writing. That's why more than 80% people take the writing section. So there's one writing prompt which will be given to you, and you have 40 minutes to give your opinion. There'll be 3 alternatives given to you on that writing prompt. You look at those 3 alternatives and choose one, and then build your ideas and analysis around it. But if you want, you can entirely have a 4th opinion of your own, which could be a mixture of this. But what we are testing you is your ideas, your analysis. How do you develop and support your argument? What are your organizational skills? And what kind of language you're using in creating your writing portion? That's all gives you mark from about 12 that you get from this test. So that brings me to the end of the various testing techniques that I want to share with you and share questions. Now I want to share how you can prepare for the ACD test. It's very interesting. What are the various resources that are there? And some of them you'll have at your disposal free of cost. Let's go and see. First and foremost is create a student account on act.org. That's very important. As you do that, what will happen is that you'll have these resources, whether it's the test prep resources or what you're supposed to do on the testing date, or what are the scores and other FAQs available for you. You can download a free study guide for how to prepare for the ACD test, which has one full-length practice test. Again, a retired ACD test given to you just to practice. So do that. I think that's a great bit of practice that you can do. And then you can also register for yourself to receive a weekly email, and you get this ACD question per day, which is very important. I think if you are in standard 10 or 11 and you get one question every day to come and solve, which are, has come in ACD papers before, I think that's a great way to practice for ACD test. Do that. If you are more interested to prepare very, very seriously, you may want to look at buying this ACT official prep guide. There are 5 practice tests available. 4 were available till last year. We have added one more. It's 5 which are practice tests available and we bought from a leading bookstore or Amazon.com. And then this is something that I want to really have your attention on. ACT Academy. Now this is a free website. It's a free tool that is given to the students to prepare for this test. If you have already taken an ACT, then you do not need to take various quizzes at the beginning. Otherwise, you can take the quizzes on math, science, English, and reading, and it uses artificial intelligence to put you in a place where it tells you how much more practice you need on that particular subject. You input your time frame that I want to take the ACT in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and it charts you curated lesson plans. It gives you curated resources depending on your scores, and it shows you the progress as you go along. It's beautiful. ACT Academy, like Khan Academy for SAT, is an important source of information for ACT test. Please do go to this website, which is free of cost, and use this resource which is there for your preparation and disposal that ACT has prepared. Also, since now you are preparing for a practice test, for a computer-based test, practice tests are very important. So use a CBT test which is there, which is available on the ACD website. You have both timed practice test as well as untimed practice test. Not putting you much pressure, but just to play around, seeing what tools are available. So for example, in the English or reading section, there are long passages and you may want to underline. It's not a paper pencil, so you can't use a pencil to underline. The HB pencil cannot be used to underline important things. But there are tools available on the website in which you can highlight, you can maximize, you can increase the font, use the magnifying glass. But you cannot know about it till the time you practice this. You do this free CBD practice. So please go and use that to understand what tools are available, how this interactive website is, and what you can do to get more marks. Be more familiar before you actually get to the testing center to take the ACD test. Then you have something as a pre-ACT, something on lines of PSAT. which makes helps students become familiar with the test. The schools can do that. We have come out with pre-ACT, which is in a computer-based format, and you can take that as well. As a single student, you don't need really to have your school subscribe to it. Schools can conduct CBT pre-ACT, but as students also, there is a beginner's guide. If you want to buy it, you get a pre-ACT code, which you can use it on the screen. So it predicts your ACT composite score and helps you prepare further. And last but not the least, we have ACT online preparation, which is available for someone who's wanting to study on the. Now, this is something which has been announced by our CEO yesterday. With what's happening due to this COVID, we understand the difficulties students are facing because test dates are getting cancelled, they're getting pushed down. We still have our June and July testing dates. We are hoping that things may stabilize in the few months, but it's anyone's guess. If that happens, great. If not, we're giving additional testing dates starting from August, and you'll see more information coming soon. And we have a test coming online at home, so you can take the test at the comfort of your home. Again, towards the later months of September, October. So we want the students not to suffer because of COVID. We're doing a lot of things. As you know, all other tests have gone, online at home. So we have GRE, we have TOEFL, we have GMAT. So ACT is doing its bit and working in the back end to really make sure that students do not suffer because of this pandemic that has come and affected the whole of humanity. So I would end my presentation with these two slides. I want to give a quick recap of what ACT is and similarities between SAT and ACT so that you can make a fair selection. So the similarities first. These examinations are accepted by all US colleges offering undergrad program and many colleges outside US as well, including India. There is one optional writing prompt for the tests. These are both multiple choice questions that are there in the test with no negative marking. But that's where the similarities end. The differences are that ACT is a computer-based test. We have a science section, which is not there in SAT. ACT does not have subject tests. There are 215 questions in ACT to be done in 3 hours, as compared to 134 of SAT. Now, since there are more number of questions, you can understand that the questions are pretty straightforward. That's why there are larger number of questions that are in this test. But you don't have to worry of the complexities in a question. You've seen a few of the questions. That's how simply the questions are very, very straightforward. That's why you have to have larger number of questions at the same time period. You don't have to bubble the OMR sheets. It's a radio clip which is there. Results, as you know, come in 2 days versus 3 weeks. We do not test you. We do not focus on vocabulary or spellings. We have only one section of maths, and calculator is allowed in all the questions. In SAT, there are 2 sections of maths. Calculator is allowed in one section and is not allowed in other section. And last but not the least, we've discussed it in the past, the writing section of ACT is done using your keyboard. You don't have to worry about handwriting error. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so very much for coming and attending this webinar. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. You can input in the chat box or maybe write to IDC and they will pass on to me and I will answer it to you. But I guess we have about 6 minutes remaining for this time to get over. So I will look at Garima to pass on the questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pawan. All right, so we already have a few questions and I'll start off directly. So one is, which I think was expected. What do you see as the corona impact on the assessment timelines?
So it's a question which I don't think even WHO is going to give a straight answer. I'm sorry. I have a daughter who's studying in 9th grade, so I can understand all the questions and what uncertainty this whole pandemic is bringing us to. As of now, I think we are all keeping our fingers crossed. We are, however, working in the back end to make sure that students do not suffer. We understand that these are important tests. A lot of universities are now, as you understand, going for being test optional in the time being. So what we are doing is we're making sure that you have additional test dates coming your way, starting from August onwards, as you've seen what ACD CEO said yesterday, and I pasted on the screen for you. And we are going for ACD test at home. So we are doing our bit in the background, but with the timelines, yes, universities are under pressure. A lot of universities are thinking about or toggling with the idea of postponing the session by a few months, or starting with computer classes. So it's an unprecedented situation for everyone, students, and I feel your pain. We feel your pain. Hopefully, we'll all come out stronger from it.
All right, fine. So, Pawan, moving on to the next question. So these are two questions, but somehow related. Could you give a comparison between the ACT and the SAT, and what do you think, which one is more difficult to crack?
So the last two slides of my presentation were actually the differences between SAT and ACT. I'm sure you may have seen that yourself. So maybe the question was written before it for some reason. There are differences between the two tests. I would not say one test is better than the other. Both the tests are good tests. They are well-engineered tests, and they are made for the purpose of identifying how good a student would you be when you start doing your college education. Having said that, not every test is suitable for you. So you may score well in one and not the other. So what is the better test for you? I can answer is by you going to a Khan Academy or ACT Academy and taking free practice tests available there. As an educator, my whole thing is that you should get more marks, whichever test you take, and get the university of your choice and better scholarship. So the best way to do is do free practice test, be comfortable with the test, and then choose the test that will give you good marks. Both the tests are easy or hard to crack. You just have to clear your concepts and practice.
Yeah, Pavan. So I was just reading the questions. So again, this may have been a repetition. So it says, which sites can give us the correct information of universities which accept the ACT score?
So as I said, all US universities offering 4-year undergrad program, they accept SAT or ACT. So it's not that they will say, hey, we'll take only one test. As compared to other universities outside US, and there are thousands. So there is no one website that I can point out to you in which you can go and get this information. But what you can certainly do is that when you make your selection of your top 8 or 10 or 12 universities, take the trouble of going to their admission page and seeing which universities are asking you to either take a standardized test or making a test option. So you'll have to do that effort of going to individual college websites when you have made the selection of your top 10, top 12, and finding out whether they want a standardized test or not.
Okay. So is the retest charged or is it free?
No, the retest is charged, and the retest is charged at the same level. So it's a fresh test that you'll be doing. It is both same for SAT or ACT.
Okay, so for others, we are waiting for your questions on the chat box, please. If you think something is still left unanswered, we'll be more than happy to, address them. Just jot down your questions and we'll take it up. Okay, so Pawan, this is now again a comparison question. It says, what parameters should be kept in mind while deciding whether we should be going in for an ACT or an SAT?
Only one parameter. Which test is you are more comfortable with which test? And when you take the test, you're able to score more questions, or in which of the test. That's the only criteria. So you can only get the fair answer once you take both the tests. Now, I don't want you to actually go and take the test, ACT or SAT. I want you to take practice tests that are available on the website free of cost. you have to take the test. I mean, it's like without tasting, you cannot understand whether you like to eat the jelly or the custard. So, and honestly, I will not be able to answer that on your behalf. Till the time you taste it yourself, you can't really make a decision. So go to the websites, Khan Academy, ACD Academy, take the free practice test and decide which is a better test for you, where you can get more marks.
All right, so I don't see any more questions pouring in. We'll just wait for a minute or so. Requesting everybody, if you would have any questions, just put it there on the chat box.
They say questions don't come only in two aspects, right? Either everyone has understood everything or no one has understood anything. So.
All right, so I think just one last question. Again, something related to the comparison. Is it redundant if we take both ACT as well as SAT?
Redundant. I don't understand the question.
So I mean, it's
no,
like, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so well, I don't know redundant means what, because how, so let's say there are two students, student A and student B, and one has taken ACT, other has taken SAT, and they both apply to same university. Now, as you know, SAT scores are from 1600 and ACT is from 36. So there's a proper concordance table that has been agreed by both SAT and ACT and has been supplied to these universities and colleges. So the college admission officer will look at your scores of both student A and student B and say, okay, this one has got 36 in ACT and the other person has got 1600 in SAT, so they both are comparable or equal. And that's how the whole concordance table is. So what is 36 equivalent to an SAT? What is 35 equivalent to it? So that concordance table is available on the websites also. You can have a look at those concordance tables, and then you can make sure that you see you compared. So if you take both the tests, you can choose to send the scores, which is the higher scores, to the university. You're not compelled to send both your SAT and your ACT scores. You can choose to select the score either of SAT or ACT, which is higher. So no, it is not redundant. Lot high percentage of students take both the ACT and SAT because they want to maximize their chances of getting to the better university and getting better scholarship. In short, no, it's not redundant. There is a proper science which has gone into play into comparing both ACT and SAT.
Okay, so I think perhaps that does bring us to the end of the session, Pawan, because we do not see any questions coming in. But
Right.
then we can definitely go ahead and address these questions separately via an email. If there is anything, all our counselors, students who are seeing this particular session, they can just write into us, and we will get them addressed through Pawan, please.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Garima.
So thank you, Pawan. Thank you for being so patient. Firstly, I think it's been a fantastic webinar. You've been very patient in terms of explaining the tiny tidbits of the whole ACT test. And especially with so many people answering it on our chat box, it definitely is great. So thank you for taking out your time and conducting this webinar for us. It was definitely a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Garima. The pleasure was all mine.
Thank you. And for everybody else who's still watching us, do look out for the webinars that are planned in this week, in the coming week. So tomorrow we have Careers in Economics at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, followed by Careers in Sports and Swimming on the Monday at 5 o'clock. All right. So on that note, good night, everybody, and have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye. All the best.